Hi everyone, welcome back to Dimitra's Dishes. It is the first weekend of November and Thanksgiving will be right around the corner. So just in time, I'm going to be bringing to you my foolproof roasted turkey recipe that anyone can make. If you've been thinking about hosting a Thanksgiving get-together, a Friendsgiving, whatever, and you want to make a turkey, but you've been intimidated because some of these recipes sound a little crazy if you ask me, I have an easy recipe that you can follow that's going to give you a juicy, delicious turkey that is going to be a showstopper too. It's going to be pretty darn pretty. Pretty darn pretty. Can you say that? Anyway, so we're not going over the ingredients today because there are different steps to this, so it's kind of silly to go over them, but let's talk about the turkey. So I have an 11-pound turkey here. This recipe is for any turkey between 10 to 12 pounds. You can adjust the seasoning as you need it. The thing about a turkey is once it comes out of the packaging, take it out carefully. Try not to cut the skin too much while you're cutting the packaging off. Sometimes they come with these little silly red pop-out thermometer type buttons. Just take these out. These are not accurate and you don't want to use those instead of a thermometer. And then there's the neck and giblets, or giblets, however you call them. They're usually tucked either behind the neck or inside the cavity. Ta-da! You want to take those out so that way everything gets seasoned properly. You can use those for the stock, and I'll show you that as we get to that step. Now I'm just going to take this over to my sink. I'm going to rinse it really well with cold water, and I'm going to pat it very, very, very dry. Make sure you have a big roll of paper towels because you're going to want to get this as dry as possible so that way you get a nice crispy golden skin. Be right back. So I washed it, and now I'm patting it dry so that way it's super duper dry, because the key to a crispy, nice golden crust is to start it off being as dry as possible. Now what you're going to need, we popped out that little thermometer that sometimes comes with the turkey. These are pretty inexpensive. They're meat thermometers and they're oven safe, so you're going to want to get one of these. You can get the digital kind if you want. Whichever one suits your fancy, go ahead and get that one. A turkey baster is going to be really nice. If you don't have one, it's okay. You can use a ladle. But those are the things that I like to use. It's kind of like a must-have for Thanksgiving. And then of course a microplane, super inexpensive. I have the link for these on my website. First thing we're gonna do is we're going to make a little bed for the turkey to lay on. Now I just don't go out and buy things that I don't use often. So those roasting pans with the fancy racks in them, I don't own one, so I just use what I have. So I have just a regular stainless steel roasting rack that's gonna fit this nice big bird. I've washed 3 celery stalks. I've peeled my carrots. You don't have to peel them, but it's Thanksgiving and I wanna get a little extra, put a little more effort into things, because I like to eat these and serve these with my turkey. If no one else eats them, I'm going to eat them because I love roasted celery and roasted carrots. So I have my celery in here. I have some carrots. I have a bunch of garlic cloves in here. You can put 3, you can put 6, you can put 8, whatever you want, put it in there. I'm just going to quarter these onions, peel them and quarter them, and I'm going to throw these in here as well. And these are going to create a nice bed for the turkey to sit on, so it's going to kind of keep it a little bit elevated. So my vegetables are in there. I like to season every step of the way, and you know that if you've been watching this channel for a while now. So I'm going to season the veggies with a little bit of salt and pepper, and then I'm going to pour about 2 cups of chicken. You can use chicken broth, chicken stock, homemade, store-bought, whatever you're using. Make sure it's low sodium so that way you can control the salt in the recipe. And this is going to create a beautiful broth. That's going to be a beautiful stock, actually, because it's going to cook for a while, that we're going to use to make our gravy. I'm also going to I like to put the turkey neck in here and the rest of the parts, the giblets and the heart. You can leave those out if you don't want to. What are they called? Are they giblets? Are they giblets? I think they're giblets. Anyway, I'm putting them in here. And then I'm just going to put the turkey on top of the vegetables. And then we're going to season it well. Now for all of the flavor, we're going to flavor this butter that we have here, and we're going to put it all around the turkey, especially underneath the skin so it can penetrate while it's baking. Breast, and it's going to be so flavorful and so juicy, and that way you can skip the brining, which I will share with you in the future, a brine turkey recipe. But for now, this is the beginner's turkey, roast turkey, which is good for also advanced cooks because it's so flavorful. But let's get back to the herbed butter. I have some salted butter. You can use salted or unsalted. It's up to you. This is a big turkey, so you don't have to worry too much about adding too much salt. This recipe definitely does not have too much salt. I'm going to grate some garlic cloves in here for that yummy, yummy flavor. I'm using 3. I'm also going to juice and zest a lemon, and I'm going to add the juice of the orange to this as well because I feel like a little sweetness goes a long way and it's going to add tons and tons of flavor. Let's get the zest first. Anytime you're zesting citrus and you're juicing it, you want to zest first and juice after because once you juice it, you really can't get the zest off. You can, but you're going to be fighting with it. And somebody's going to get hurt. Most likely it's going to be your fingers. So we're just going to juice the orange and the lemon. And now the only thing that's left is to add a teaspoon of salt and a tablespoon of dried oregano. You can use oregano, you can use fresh rosemary, you can use thyme, whatever you like, use that. But I love oregano, so that's what I'm using. I'm just going to mix this all up, and this butter is just going to be magical. Now we're just going to use our spoon. You could start off with your spoon to loosen the skin. Try not to rip it, so go a little gentle. We're going to loosen the skin so that we create a really nice pocket to hold some of this marinade, and then you can go in with your hands and just loosen the rest. You can also loosen underneath the thigh. We're just going to do that. Perfect. Now we're going to take a few tablespoons of this marinade and we're going to put it inside right under the breast on both sides. We're also going to put it underneath the skin of the drumsticks and the thighs. And then the rest we're just going to rub all over the top. So we're done with our herb butter. Now the next step is to fill and season the inside of the cavity. I don't like to overstuff the cavity so that way it doesn't block the airflow, but I do like to put a lot of flavor in here. So I have a heaping teaspoon of cumin powder, which is really nice in poultry, a teaspoon of salt, and a touch of crushed red pepper flakes. You can leave the crushed red pepper flakes out if you don't like them. We're just going to put that in there. And then I have peeled garlic, about 10 to 12 of them. If you don't have that and you have a whole head of garlic, just cut it in half, and you can put half of it in there or the whole head in there. And then I have some fresh oregano from my backyard and some sage leaves, and I'm just going to gather these all up and just put these in here because they're going to release their aroma and they're going to make this nice and flavorful. So now we're just going to season the top liberally with some salt, a little bit of pepper, and oregano, dried oregano. So all of the measurements are on the website, and they're also going to be underneath this video in the description bar, in the description tab, so don't worry about it. Now we're just going to tie the legs with some kitchen twine. Now I'm not going to use any fancy schmancy tying techniques because, to tell you the truth, I don't have any. I'm just going to tie the twine around both legs, and this is going to help them cook evenly. So I'm just going to tie it just a knot and a little bow, just like they taught you in kindergarten. Nothing fancy. If you have a fancy way of tying it, be my guest and do it. And then we're going to tuck the wings in so that way they cook evenly as well. Now I'm going to tuck them right here underneath the neck area, just like so. Now it's time to put it in the oven, but before we do that, we're going to take a big piece of parchment paper and we're just going to tent it around the turkey, and then we're going to cover that with aluminum foil. So I've covered it with parchment paper and aluminum foil because some of you guys have brought it to my attention that it's unhealthy to put aluminum foil directly onto food. So I like to learn things, new things every day, and ever since I learned that, I never put aluminum foil directly onto my food while I'm baking. So my oven is preheated to 325 degrees Fahrenheit. I'm a big believer in cooking things low and slow, especially when it's a big bird like this. You want to keep it really nice and juicy. I'm going to roast it covered for 2 hours. Then I'm going to go in, take the foil and the parchment paper off. I'm going to insert my thermometer, my meat thermometer, into the thickest part of the leg or the thigh, and I'm going to put that in there, and every 20 minutes I'm going to go in with the baster. It's nice to have one of these things, and I'm going to take all the liquid that's collected on the bottom, all the pan juices, the broth basically, and I'm going to pour all over the top, and that's going to help it become nice and golden. I'm going to roast this until the thermometer reads 165 degrees Fahrenheit. At that point, I'm going to take it out because if it cooks any longer, then you're going to have a dry bird on your hands, and we're making a nice juicy bird. So follow those instructions, and at the end, I'll show you what it looks like. So once the turkey reaches 165 degrees Fahrenheit, take it out of the oven, remove the thermometer piece from it, transfer it carefully onto a platter and tent it with either parchment paper or aluminum foil. And it's crucial that you let it rest for a good 30 minutes so that the juices redistribute. It'll stay warm for about an hour and a half, so that gives you plenty of time to put your side dishes in the oven and warm them through, or make your pie or whatever you have ready to go. But it is absolutely so important to let it rest, because if you were to cut into it now and carve it, what would happen is all the juices that are inside the turkey are going to come out, and then you're going to have a dry turkey on your hand. So that's probably the easiest step. Let it rest, make your gravy, which is what we're going to do next. Just take once you place the turkey on the platter, then take out all of the vegetables from the pan and set them aside. They're a really nice snack. They're great for using in stews, but honestly, we just eat them around here because they're so good. And then strain all of the pan juices into a measuring cup. We're going to need 4 cups of pan juices for the stock. If you have less, then go ahead and top it off with some chicken stock. You're going to want to run the garlic that you have at the bottom of the pan through the strainer, because that's just going to add a lot of nice flavor to your stock. That's totally optional. Then if you have a little gravy separator, which is like a fat separator, the oil rises to the top and you get all the pan drippings on the bottom. You could go ahead and pour that into your fat separator. If you don't, you can put this whole container in your refrigerator. The fat will rise to the top once it solidifies, and then you could just scoop it all off. You could save it and use it for your gravy, or you could use it for other things, or discard it. It's totally up to you. Now we're going to get started on making our gravy. We're going to begin by putting a saucepan over medium-high heat and adding 4 tablespoons of salted butter. Now you can use unsalted butter if you want. We're going to wait for these to melt, and then we're going to add about 1/3 cup of all-purpose flour, and all of the measurements, of course, are underneath in the description box as well as on the website, so don't you worry about it at all. I got you covered. So we're going to add the flour, and then we're going to wait for it to cook down and become a little bit nice and toasted. And once that happens, if it starts to dry up a little bit, you'll see that there's a little tiny bit of oil on that side of the fat separator. You can go ahead and add that and just cook it down a little bit, just until the flour smells nice and toasted. And don't worry if it clumps up like this, because it's going to become really nice and smooth once we add the stock. So we're going to add the stock, leaving out the oil. So we're going to add these 2 cups first, whisk it until it's nice and smooth, and then we're going to add the remaining 2 cups, totaling 4 cups of stock. Just like that, we're going to add about 2 tablespoons of freshly squeezed lemon juice, and that's totally optional. It's up to you. It's just going to freshen it up and just add that really beautiful lemony flavor that's already in the turkey. 2 to 3 tablespoons, whatever your preference is. Some freshly cracked pepper, and then once this boils, we're going to go in and taste it and see if it needs a little bit of salt. So my gravy has cooked to the consistency that I like it. This is how I like it. It's still runny. It's not thick like a bechamel sauce or anything like that, but it has some body to it. Again, you can cook it as thin or as thick as you like. The longer you cook it here on the stovetop at a higher heat, the thicker it's going to get. If it gets a little too thick, go ahead and thin it out again with a little bit of chicken stock and you'll be good to go. I didn't even add a drop of salt to this because it had the perfect amount. So that's why make sure you don't add any salt until you taste it. If you have anybody who's coming to visit who knows how to carve the turkey, that would be a perfect job to give your guests to do. I know guests, when they come over, they love to find out how they can help, because everyone wants to help when they see that you're cooking a big feast. So give the turkey carving to somebody who knows how to do it, or do it ahead of time so no one sees you fighting with the turkey. You don't have juices all over the place. But if you follow the recipe step by step, guaranteed you're going to have a juicy turkey. The one thing that I did before I first of all, as soon as I took my turkey out of the oven, I put it directly onto the platter. So some of the juices can drain onto the platter, and I just leave those in there. Then I transfer it onto my cutting board and I slice it on here. And then before I put the slices on the cutting board, I like to drizzle or put 1 or 2 ladlefuls of gravy on the bottom of the cutting board, so when the turkey sits on there, it absorbs some of that flavor and it's just going to be delicious. You can also drizzle a little bit of gravy on top if you wanted to. Keep the gravy because it's going to be extra. This makes a nice big batch. My gravy boat is full and I still have some more, just like I like it, because everyone likes to put gravy on everything, not just on the turkey. It's great on mashed potatoes if you're making biscuits. I don't have to go into that because you know how it goes. So keep your gravy on the lowest setting on the stove if you can, to keep it nice and warm, to keep refilling it if you need to. Now, I'll link up in the card section to a fantastic turkey carving tutorial. It's going to be much better than mine, so I will link up here, so make sure you watch that if you want to learn how to carve a turkey. This is delicious. Take a look at it. All I did was I simply put whatever herbs I had around. I had some rosemary, and then I had some clementines and lemons because I have lemon and orange in here. I just sliced it, and very simply, nothing fancy, put it around and underneath my turkey pieces. If you have sage leaves or if you have fresh citrus leaves, those would be great garnishes as well. Make sure you serve this. If you're wondering how much turkey to buy, the general rule of thumb is 1 pound per person. I like to do 1.5 pounds per person because leftovers are the best part of Thanksgiving and any holiday. So make sure you get extra. The recipe is in the description box down below, as well as on the website, dimitrasdishes.com. This whole month, I'm going to be bringing to you Thanksgiving and holiday recipes just to make it super easy for you to host. You won't think twice. If you're attending a Friendsgiving or potluck, you'll know exactly what to bring. I'm going to get you hooked up. I'm also going to do a live stream soon at some point, maybe 10 days before Thanksgiving or so. So start posting comments down below and I'll start collecting them and answer some of those through the comment section and live on that day. And I'll let you know as the date approaches what day we're going to be doing it. Thank you so much for spending time with me today. I will see you guys next time. Bye, everyone.